In this video, we're going to talk about price discrimination, which I think is probably best illustrated with an example. So let's say that we have a company here called ABC Corporation. Now, ABC Corporation has some good or service, it doesn't really matter, that that cost them actually $4 per good or whatever to actually distribute to customers. So the cost is $4 a unit. And what we find is that they do some research and they see that they've actually got two groups of potential customers. So group one has 100 people who are willing to pay, they're willing to pay $6 a unit for this good. They'll pay $6. Now there's this other group here, group two, which also consists of 100 people. And these 100 people, though, they're actually, for whatever reason, they're wealthier, whatever, they value the good more, they'll actually pay $10 a unit. So we see in either case, we'd be making a profit to sell to these people. At group one, you know, $6 they pay, it cost us $4. So let's just think about this, because we've got an important decision to make, and that's, what price do we charge? What's our price? Do we charge $6? Do we charge $10? Do we charge somewhere in the middle? So let's think about this here. Let's assume that we charge $10. Let's see what happens. Well, if we charge $10, then these people in group one are not going to pay. So group one, in terms of the revenue that we're going to get from them, we're going to get nothing. We're not going to get anything from them. They're not going to pay $10. But group two, those people will pay $10. So we're going to get 100 people paying $10. So that's $1,000. So group two, we're going to get $1,000. So now let's think about it. Let's think about it a different way. Well, what if we said, well, let's charge them $6. Let's just charge $6 and see what happens. Well, now, people from both groups are going to buy this, right? Because group one, they're willing to pay $6. And group two, they were willing to pay $10. So they're happy. So let's go ahead and we'll say from group one, we're going to have 100 people paying $6. That's our price. So that's going to give us $600. Now let's look at group two. We're going to get the same thing. We're going to get 100 people paying $6. Now it doesn't matter that they were willing to pay 10. We're charging 6, remember? So we're going to get $600 again. Now let's think about the total. So in this case, we end up with a total of $1,200. And in our first case, where we charged $10, we end up with $1,000. Now, if these were our only options, you might say, okay, well, let's just go ahead. We're better off charging $6. But you know what? We've actually kind of left some money on the table here, because these people would have paid $10 a unit, and we only charged them $6. So there's that gap of $4 that we missed out on. Now, you might say, well, there's nothing we can do about that. That's just lost. But, you know, let's just imagine for a minute. Let's imagine this perfect world. And let's say in this perfect world, we could somehow get the best of both scenarios. We get the best of both worlds. And what's the best of both worlds? Well, the best of both worlds is group one pays $6 that they said they were willing to pay. That's $6. And then group two pays us $10. So we're charging different prices to people in different groups for the same unit, the same good or service. There's nothing different about it. Now you might say, that's ridiculous. How could we possibly charge the same or different for the same good or service and get different prices? Well, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But let's just see what happens to our sales here. So now if group 1 is paying $6 and there are 100 people in that group, so we're going to get $600. Group 2, we got 100 people now paying $10, so we get $1,000. Now let's add that up and let's compare that to our previous scenario. So we got $1,600. Now before, the best case scenario was this $200. $400 more. So we would have lost a lot of money if we couldn't do that. So, but now we're getting to, well, how do we actually do that? How do we do? Well, this is called price discrimination. This is what price discrimination here is. We're charging the same price, or excuse me, we're charging different prices for the same good or service to different groups of people. Price discrimination. Now, how do you get away with that? Well, you might have already been part of price discrimination and you didn't even realize it. So let me just give a couple examples. So one we think of, the airline industry. So if you notice, in the airline industry, people who pay in advance is cheaper. Much, much cheaper if you pay in advance. And I'm talking, weeks or something in advance. If you book your tickets in advance, you pay a cheaper rate. But if you last minute is more expensive, much more expensive. You get those business travelers at the last minute, and they really they don't have any discretion over whether they take the trip or not. Somebody who's planning well in advance, they can kind of shop around with prices, but someone at the last minute, they're willing to just pay whatever. So the airline goes ahead and says, well, look, we're gonna recognize that these people who go at the last minute will pay more. Just like in this case up here, we had 100 people who'd pay $10 and 100 who'd pay $6. Well, that's what they're recognizing. They say, okay, well, there's some people who will pay $6, and so we'll give them that rate at $6. But toward the end, this last minute, we know there's people who will pay the $10. So they're going to charge different price. You're getting the same seat on an airline. It's just they're charging to different groups of people, the people at the last minute or the people in advance. So let's go with a different example, though. Let's take a movie theater. Now, the movie theater also does price discrimination. If you go to a movie theater, you'll see that senior citizens or students will get a cheaper rate. And so if you're just somebody who shows up and you're 30 years old, you're not a student and you're not a senior citizen yet, and just others, you just have to pay. You end up paying $12 or something, whereas a senior citizen or a student who might not, maybe a senior citizen's on a fixed income, the student doesn't have much money. In any case, they decide they're going to give that cheaper rate to a senior. The movie theater is not just being nice, they're not just doing this out of the kindness of their heart, just throwing away potential sales. They're recognizing there's two different groups of people, and they got one group that'll say, okay, we'll pay $6 to go see the movie, and then there's another group that says we'll pay $10. So the movie theater says, okay, well, we're going to take this best of both worlds, and we're going to charge you each what you'd be willing to pay, because otherwise we're just going to be losing sales and kind of leaving money on the table. Just like here, if you just pick that one uniform price rate, the best you do is $1,200. But when you price discriminate, you can get that $1,600, the best case scenario. So if at all possible, if you're able to price discriminate with your business, it's wise to do so.